people, it's me Anja. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new series video. The first book on this list is called The Prison Hero. This book is YA fantasy and it follows a young girl who spent the past 10 years working at a death prison as the prison hero. And the plot really starts off when she volunteers in place of somebody else to go through the trial by ordeal, which is a series of elemental trials that nobody has ever survived before. And if you're wondering why she decides to do this, well, you'll have to read this book. This book was so good. The plot was so thrilling and it was so intriguing. The world building was so immersive and inventive, and I'm so excited to read the next two books in this trilogy because I know that they're going to be absolutely so good. The characters were so well developed and distinct in this book. The romance was so cute, but also so angsty as well. The friendships formed in this story were so well done. The cliffhanger ending in this story really implemented and really solidified how excited I am for the next two books in this series because I am expecting them to be absolutely so good. This book was so good and I really enjoyed it. So with that, I gave it 4.5 stars and I highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called When the World Was Ours. This story is YA historical fiction and follows 3 different perspectives of 3 young friends whose lives and friendship all forever changed by the Holocaust. This story is absolutely so good. I really enjoyed the 3 distinct perspectives because each one of them added something new to the story, and I really enjoyed all 3 of them. Like, there was never a point in time where I preferred one character perspective over another, you know what I mean? Nor was there a point in time where the perspectives blurred together because each of them created well-developed, distinct characters, and I love them so much. The plot was so thrilling and wonderful and lovely, and I can really visualize the setting well. This author is so talented, and I would definitely say that this book is my favorite by hers because it's absolutely so good. I've read so many historical fiction stories that are set during the Holocaust, but this book in particular stood out to me because it was absolutely so good, and the friendship between the 3 of them was so emotionally touching. I really enjoyed seeing how the Holocaust changed each of them individually. You know what I mean? Like, this story was so well done. The characters were so well developed and distinct, and that's what made the story distinct in itself. So with that, I rated the story 4 stars. I would highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called In Deeper Waters. This story is YA fantasy and follows a young prince who must rely on a mysterious stranger to save him during his coming-of-age tour. I liked this book. I liked the world building, I liked the action-packed, fast-paced plot. Tal, the main character, was a good character, and I think that there should be more soft boys like him in YA fantasy. However, unfortunately, I was pretty much let down by the rest of this book because, for example, the romance. I didn't really like the romance, and I kind of felt like they got together a little bit too fast. Like, their development felt very fast to me, and I felt like I didn't really have time to ship them or to really enjoy their character dynamic before they got together, if that makes any sense. And I just remember that this story kind of reminds me of The Extraordinaries by T.J. Klune, which I read last year, in the sense that I felt like this story had a more wholesome and light-hearted tone to it than I was really expecting from a YA story. You know what I mean? Even though there were some more hard-hitting stuff that happened in this story, they didn't really have the emotional punch that they needed to have because the rest of the story felt so much more light-hearted and wholesome. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but essentially, I didn't really love this book as much as I was really expecting, but I can see why people will really enjoy it. It's just not personally my cup of tea, so in that way, I rated this book 3 stars. So yeah. The next book on this list is called She Drives Me Crazy, written by Quindlen, who's the same author of Late to the Party, which I really loved last year. As you know, I just mentioned it in my favorite queer contemporaries video 2 days ago. So going into this book, I had somewhat high expectations I knew that this book wouldn't be as good as Late to the Party, but I thought that it would be at least as good as Her Name in the Sky, and unfortunately, this book was the biggest disappointment on this entire list. So, if you didn't know, this story is YA contemporary and follows a girl who falls in love with her high school nemesis. So, personally, I liked this girl as a character. In the beginning of the story, she kind of irritated me, but throughout the story, her characterization grew on me. So, kudos to that. Also, the plot was kind of intriguing because I was kind of intrigued to see how the romance would end up in the end, even though personally I didn't really like their development, and I felt like they didn't really have any chemistry, so I was kind of hoping that their chemistry would come eventually, and it never did. Honestly, the development in this story regarding the romantic relationship kind of reminded me of the development of I Think I Love You, which also I didn't like the romantic development in that book. And also in this story, none of the other characters really stood out to me, and I don't really understand why this author didn't bother to develop them, because since I've read Her Name in the Sky and Late to the Party, I know that she can, but she didn't, and I don't really know why. So with that, I didn't really like this book as much as I was really hoping to, because I didn't really like the way that the romantic relationship was developed or established, because I felt like they had no chemistry. So I didn't really ship them, and also I didn't really like any other elements of the story either. So I ended up rating this book 3 stars because it was a big disappointment. So with that, I honestly don't really recommend this story at all. The next book on this list is called What's Not to Love. This story is YA contemporary, and it's an academic rivals to lovers type of story, and it follows Allison, and after she starts to spend more time with her rival, she starts to discover that their rivalry is a little bit more than just a friendship. This story was good, but it wasn't great or amazing by any means. This is a type of story that had way more potential than it actually lived up to. You know what I mean? Like, this story I was expecting to be so much better, and it just wasn't. I didn't really like how the romance was developed, because similarly to She Drives Me Crazy, I thought this story had no chemistry regarding the romance, and I really was hoping that this story would have 2 perspectives instead of just one, and I really think that the story could have really benefited from that, because it really could have added more depth and more like emotional touching to it. You know what I mean? Like, the story could have been so much better, and it just wasn't, and it's honestly so disappointing, because I've read previous books by this author duo, and they can do so much better, and they just didn't. This book just really fell short, because the romance was so poorly developed. So with that, I rated this book 3 stars, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend it at all. So yeah, there's that. So in conclusion, if I were to rank these books from best to worst, I would rank them The Prison Hero, When the World Was Ours, In Deeper Waters, What's Not to Love, and then She Drives Me Crazy. So in conclusion, I really only highly recommend The Prison Hero and When the World Was Ours, because the last 3 books on this list were honestly really disappointing. So yeah, there's that. If you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the ice emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!